I think like Vegas, if there was one place to host everything, I think Vegas is literally the most efficient city, and they're built for it 100%. They have the literally the foundation, from hotels to restaurants to events to venues, you name it. It should just be there every year if you had to pick one spot in the country.
I'm Ndamukong Suh, and welcome to No Free Lunch, where we talk to experts and athletes about how the most successful people in sports manage their money and grow their wealth. Danny, what's going on?
Good, man. Quick question for you. All right, so we just finished All-Star Weekend. We just finished the Pro Bowl flag game, which is crazy to say.
Yeah.
I'm curious, from Ndamukong Suh, why or how can we fix All-Star games in general? I got to know. The fans need to know. From Ndamukong Suh himself, how do we fix it?
Man, it's a tough one, man, because you look at the NFL and everybody's beat up, tired, and just trying to chill, enjoy their family, and hang out. I ran into a handful of ex-teammates and players that are at the Super Bowl and Pro Bowl. It's just tough, man. I think the NFL started to do a good job of making it more interactive with the fans and switching up and having competitions, tug of war, things of that nature. But to play a real football game, that is really, really tough. So I think we got to continue to innovate and be more creative and find different ways. And maybe we start throwing out Chris Lyons and they start getting into the pads and whatnot. So, you never know, man. I know we getting ready to talk to my guy. We'll see what he has to say.
Yeah, no, we're bringing Chris on. Specifically, we were in San Francisco for the Super Bowl, and I saw these Waymos all over the place. And when I lived in San Francisco in 2016, the same year they had Super Bowl a decade ago, I saw autonomous cars for the first time, and I was like freaking out. So anyways, I know the adoption is increasing a lot, and I just want to talk to Chris about how these host cities from an infrastructure standpoint can better suit or accommodate all these fans and people that are running around all over the place, whether it be Super Bowl or All-Star or whatever.
Yeah, man, I got some stories about Waymo because I was out there for a whole week. And I know they're one of the most innovative top companies, probably top 10 in the world right now. Yeah. But, man, let's get into it right here on No Free Lunch. We'll talk to my guy, Chris. Chris, man, welcome back to the show, boss, man. Long time
What's
no
happening?
see.
What's happening? I see you over here trying to get me on this celebrity all-star game. I'm not doing football, I'll tell you that.
Hey, man, you might be able to be a running back, a quarterback. You never know. We're trying to get you out there. You want to be entertainment. A lot more entertainment, but we'll see how these are. I mean, they got the NBA All-Star. I might pull up and knock down some threes or some 5-pointers that they have. So
I'll take you one-on-one. Come on, man. You don't want this smoke.
Hey, man. Hey, I don't play fair. And we would have some fun, though. I'd take you down to the post. But let's talk about tech in host cities. And there's been a lot of innovative ways of being able to support these host cities with tech. And being in San Francisco, I think for me, I saw a lot of autonomous driving, Waymo to speak of one specifically. And to me, I had some wild experiences. I was there for an entire week and just seeing this vehicle, nobody's driving in it and people are doing their thing, walking around. I was on my way to the Warriors game. I was fortunate enough, a friend of mine gave us some great seats, took the wife, and one of them just bugged out and just stopped in the middle of traffic. If you're sitting there and watching that, what are you doing? How does that work? But then on the flip side, I see one of my counterparts with Sky Sports, they had one of the most beautiful experiences with Waymo and did an interview in the back of it. So it's they're excellent at being able to get people around with no human needs, for lack of better words. But then they could just, your phone crashes out, Apple crashes out, and you got to reset it. And that's what happened to the vehicle.
I remember the first time I rode in one, it was definitely, it's funny because for 5 minutes, you're this is the craziest thing in the world. And then right after that, you're like right back on your phone, like you're a regular Uber driver. You kind of forget that there's nobody in the seat. So, which is great. And, at the end of the day, I mean, they've done probably over 127 million miles of fully autonomous driving. And they said, I mean, you think about when people are driving, they're eating, they're doing their makeup in the car, they're, doing all types of things, texting, everything but actually driving. And so, like companies like Waymo have like a 90% reduction in serious injury crashes compared to human drivers. And so, I'm a huge fan of it. And now they're actually fully functioning. 6 major cities already. I think it's like Bay Area, Phoenix, LA, Austin, Atlanta, and down here in Miami, they just opened. They just started, really getting the ships off the ground now there too.
Where do you think the benefits are with autonomous driving and a Waymo, for that example, being in cities just in general, but more or less high traffic Super Bowl events, all-star events? The World Cup is coming this summer. Like, I'm in Houston, Texas, and I'm looking at like, where is this going to be advantageous for these major events? And just in people in general, you've already given the proven case of like people driving, eating, makeup, all these different things, like versus just focusing on driving. Like, that's one of the reasons why at times, especially, I just went to Dallas the other day. Like, I had a driver take me so I can actually focus, do some work, 3.5 hour drive, and then come back.
I mean, it's the best feeling in the world. I mean, look, if I think it's like a barbell, like you're like driving a Porsche or you're driving like to drive, or like just there's no the middle ground makes no sense. Like you could just get so much of your life back together. And, I think like at major events like Super Bowl, or like you said, the World Cup, I mean, you have tens of thousands of people flooding small geographic areas at the time, and they're all trying to leave at once, right? So like, think about, autonomous vehicles. They don't surge price in the same way that human ride shares driving do, even though kind of the prices do go up and down, and they don't get road rage and gridlock. They don't call out sick on game day. So it's look, they were all over, and success, to put a company like Waymo to the test during Super Bowl. There was over 1,000 vehicles kind of going around, and so for tourists, riding a Waymo was almost kind of like riding a trolley, the San Francisco trolley. It was like an activity for people to do. And then for the upcoming World Cup in New York and New Jersey, it's going to be a little bit more complicated because, New York doesn't necessarily have all the clear regulatory pathways for, fully driverless commercial services. But, they've been doing some limited testing in the city, and there's going to need some special permitting. But, I think that given all the cities and where things are going to go, I think you're going to see a lot more companies and a lot more adoption in the space moving forward.
So I'm curious, twofold question for you. How does a Waymo or any other competitors scale up in this environment? You touched on a little bit of New York as an example. And then also, like, generally, how familiar are you with some of these other competitors? Because it seems like Waymo has the lion's share of the market right now. 2026
is being called Waymo's breakout year. I mean, they're laying the groundwork for ride hailing operations, probably in close to over 20 additional cities this year. And then they're going to have their first international markets that are going to be in Tokyo and also in London. And like I mentioned, like they already have domestically that just went live in Miami, Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, Orlando, Detroit, Vegas, Nashville. I can go on and on, on and on. So look, and the reason they can do all that is because they've raised over $16 billion in investment rounds. And I mean, the company's already valued at over 126 billion. So that gives them the cash, especially when it comes to startups in this type of industry, that you're going to have to scale aggressively. You know, with technology plus regulation and kind of hitting that stack. And so, you know, I think the other new thing that you're going to see, kind of similar to, you know, railroads and train stations and, you know, when you see kind of just public transportation, is they're going to have a new manufacturing plants that are going to start coming out. So I think one of the big ones that's going to happen is going to be in Phoenix, where they'll produce, you know, the funny thing is that, you know, that Jaguar I-Pace was a car that actually originally wasn't even selling that well for the company. And now they've ended up flipping it. And that's going to be, you know, pretty much the new Prius that you're going to see every single day. And for, especially when it comes to Waymo robo taxis. And so I think by the end of 2026, you could probably see over 1 million rides a week, you know, and right now it's right around kind of 400,000 a week. And so, you know, I think the last thing is just kind of as new hardware starts to come out from more diverse environments. So I think that, you know, one of the things that they're going to have to think about is beyond just regular cities. What about extreme weather circumstances, or, you know, New York City, or all these different environments? I think you'll start to see some really new interesting things tick up.
That's super interesting, because as you look at it, like, in knowing enough to be dangerous and looking this in details, like understanding like the subsidiary of Waymo is a subsidiary of the Alphabet, and that's obviously Google and whatnot, and they started this up. When you talk about competitors, why doesn't Uber get into this business and start up something? Like, they have that experience, they have the data points already because of their drivers that have been out on the roads for, I believe, over a decade at this particular point in time. Or does Waymo just have this market cornered at this particular point in time?
The big thing is, it's not just obviously, you know, the miles, but it's a combination of software and hardware. And when you know, see these cars driving around, you know, there's sensors that are really kind of getting all the geography, getting the locations and the turns, and being able to understand that. And so, you know, your neighbor's Prius doesn't have that same technology that can kind of implement into that. But, you know, there is a lot of competitors that are coming. I mean, obviously with Elon and what he's doing, Tesla, great example. You know, but their cars still require what's called like a safety monitor in the vehicle. And what's different between a Waymo is that they use a camera only vision based system, so no LiDAR, like which Waymo uses, which is, on one end it's cheaper, but it's also kind of a little bit more controversial in true Elon fashion. And he's admitted that the Cybercab will be, it'll take a long time for it to roll out, but he sees, you know, very high ambitions on that. Another one, which is owned by Amazon, named Zoox, Zoox. I actually got a chance to meet the CEO, co-CEO in the Bay Area a couple of weeks ago. She's incredible, and definitely shout out to her as well.
Are you going into that?
No, we may or may not already have a bet somewhere else. Check your statements, man. You're in a lot more things than you think.
No, I know. We need to catch up on that, man. So I'm ready.
But Zoox is really cool because it's almost kind of like a purpose-built robo-taxi, but it has no steering wheel, and so no driver's seat. And it's what's really cool. It's like it's got bi-directional design, so it's kind of really offering free rides in parts of San Francisco. And I saw it originally in Vegas right now, and they're going to start charging for rides this year. And I think they have a facility out in Hayward, and I think their goal is probably to get over 10,000 robo-taxis a year. And so I think that that's probably the two main ones within the US. And obviously you can't sleep on China. And so there's this thing called Apollo Go. And so that's kind of what's dominant within the Chinese market. And they have already, 250,000 driverless rides a week. And so they actually partnered with Lyft to bring more of their robo-taxis into the UK and Germany this year. So that should be interesting. But however, Waymo is the only company offering rides with like zero human presence in the vehicle at a commercial scale. And so everyone else still has these safety drivers or monitors that they have to implement in the meantime. We talk about Uber and we kind of tell them, hey, because they used to be partnered with Waymo. If you kind of look back at some of the news, but then they kind of downplayed the system and through a lot of politics, which you can talk with them about on. But they're also building their own robo-taxi place, so you got to keep out with them. I don't know if you've seen the electric vehicle Lucid Motors. So they put a $300 million investment into them, and also another company called Nuro to kind of be the Uber exclusive robo-taxi. And so that's supposed to be coming out later on this year. So, we'll see where Uber lands. And they've also partnered with companies like NVIDIA, and they're targeting, ultimately 100,000 robo-taxis by 2027. So all this is great news that we will no longer need to be driving and we're going to have plenty of options and we can all sit back and
Man, but I still enjoy jumping into my GMC 1500 and rolling around solo. Ain't got to worry about nothing. I just might have to fight a couple RoboCops with some road rage. And say, get out of my way, man. You're taking too long.
Hey, listen, once GMC starts getting the flying cars, that's when we'll really start to figure out, well, maybe we'll have some new type of music.
I'll take me a flying jet, they can make it economical. I would love to take my own. So if you make those, those are pretty much flown by themselves anyways with the auto landing and taking off. But I still like to have some pilots in there.
As Wale said, look, man, no hands. The fans got to know. So according to Boardroom, the Super Bowl remained as literally the single biggest weekend of the year for private aviation. And so more than 500 planes departed from the Bay Area literally right after Super Bowl wrap. So we got to know, were you on one of them planes?
Unfortunately, I was not. I was on United Airlines 1249 flight from SFO to Houston, Texas. I was not fortunate enough to have a friend that was taking their jet back to Houston, Texas. And so I was not on one of those 500 jets. I wish I was, because my sleep would have probably been a little bit better. But hey, man.
And you would have had some better food, because with all due respect, United does not have my favorite.
But I was strategic. The game got over around 8:30, 9 o'clock. I slid up to SFO, stopped at an In-N-Out real quick, and then got to the airport. So I had a nice, decent meal.
I was on the JSX, so
you was on the JSX, man. So one day I can upgrade. Maybe I'll get on to the level soon.
It's the hybrid vehicle right there. So, but sure. No, I heard it was. I heard the top destinations were Vegas. Everybody came in and out in Vegas. And so, shout out to everybody that was on that G650 to Van Nuys.
For sure. Yeah. At what point do you think it makes sense, and you talk about JSX as an example, to one, be flying private from a logistical standpoint, but even more importantly, an economical standpoint, especially to like key events and just general travel as well, to be efficient?
Well, look, I think I kind of always go back to my dad's mentality that he'd always say. He said, if you got more time than money, then you can go that way. If you got more money than time, then you should go that way. And so, I think that, look, if you got it, go ahead and if you got some room for a ride, call your boy. But I think at the same time, I think that it does add up, and it looks good for the gram, and it's great, from an efficiency standpoint, gets you in and out. And I mean, there's million benefits when it comes to flying private. But I do think that, if you're doing it in order to flex, I think that, that's one way, and it might be good. But if you keep on doing that a couple times, then you might be, not having a free lunch, but, in the long run. But if you can really, like, what do they say? If you can pay for it twice, then it feels like it's a good thing. And so, from a time and efficiency standpoint, if you got someplace to go, that's obviously no better way. But if you're in the middle and you want to find something quick and easy, I always recommend a quick little Jet Suite X, just in and out. And, you can still kind of get a little bit of that feel. And they do have some good snacks on the plane too.
And I mean, it sounds like Jet Suite X needs to be a sponsor of No Free Lunch to get you where you need to go, get me where I need to go. And we can just, bring some things together, do a couple pods on live, have a couple guests on there and whatnot, and talk about the business, man.
Or if you should just go all the way, because I think NetJets is always normally the busiest fractional operator, and they have Starlink, so we could probably do one of these podcasts on the plane.
With Starlink internet, we could do more than just a pod. We stream video games and all. So I mean, that just may have to be the true partner at the end of the day. But man, it's one of those things that I've always wanted to have consistent access and ability to do it. And I was actually just recently talking to one of my mentors about it. But it's finding the right structure which fits best for you. And then obviously I think it comes down to even the cities that you live in and whatnot, because obviously there's more planes in Texas than there is in Nebraska or Tennessee, for example, and whatnot. And I'd imagine Delta, with Delta Jets and Delta being a major hub in Atlanta, they've got a big fleet there to some extent. So it's always interesting. But I want to transition a little bit and ask you, in your experiences, and you've had a ton of them, All-Star, Super Bowl, through and through, what is one of your favorite host cities and why?
I think one that originally came to mind for me, it was a while ago, but it was New Orleans All-Star Weekend. And it was amazing. I think that it was prime time. Just like all the guys were still, obviously they were all goated, but like you got a chance to see New Orleans at its finest. Everybody running around. I think there was a Lil Wayne concert, and I remember Katie was there, and everyone was in the building. It was just a ball. I think the food was fantastic. So I think that's always been one of my favorites. The last time we did San Francisco for the Super Bowl, this one was great, but the one a couple of years ago was also because I was in the backyard, and when I was living out there, I really enjoyed that as well too. Let's see, and then I would say the toughest one, I tried to enjoy it, but it was really hard, was Toronto. That was the first time I ever got frostbite on my toe. I was like, it was literally.
I remember that one. I remember that. Yeah, that All-Star in Toronto was cold.
It was cold, ice cold. So, however, it did have literally, I think, the best slam dunk contest of all time that we got a chance to experience. And that was also, I believe, Kobe's last All-Star game. And so I think from a most memorable standpoint, just including the cold, I would have to say Toronto was really a one-on-one opportunity. You had to be there. And I think that was about 10 years ago.
Yeah, it was, because I was still in Detroit. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was my last year in Detroit. And I remember a mentor let me borrow his plane. It was just a little hopper from Detroit to Toronto, there and back. So that was definitely a great experience and whatnot. But I would echo as well, New Orleans last year for the Super Bowl was so efficient and special and easy going. But again, like you said, amazing food. Everything was streamlined, the main thoroughfare. But outside of that main thoroughfare, everything, and it was walkable. Like that's what I think what it was. It was a walkable, like my main hotel, one of the main hotels, but everything was walkable to get around to all the different spots. So I think that was without a great host city. And you would say like, man, maybe not a lot of people may think that, but it definitely was. But
I think that the city that is most built for like hosting, whether it could be anything, it could be All-Star, it could be Super Bowl, hands down has to be Las Vegas though. I mean, literally, like from food to hospitality to they got the Allegiant Stadium just built for it. You can actually stay in decent hotels because that's one issues is like, going to Indianapolis, with all due respect, for All-Star Weekend, I'm like, woo, boy, he has slim pickings when it came to try and figuring out where you wanted to stay.
One of the top hotels was the Courtyard Marriott.
And so, I think like Vegas, if there was one place to host everything, I think Vegas is literally the most efficient city, and they're built for it 100%. They have the literally the foundation from hotels to restaurants to events to venues, you name it. It should just be there every year if you had to pick one spot in the country.
Well, Chris, man, I appreciate you joining No Free Lunch, man. Always a pleasure to talk to you, and we'll get up here again soon.
Absolutely. Well, we will get a free lunch next time we get this deal sponsored by NetJets, where we can go hop on a plane.
Hey, man, NetJets, we calling you out right now.
Come on.
Need to do a podcast. We need to get it done. Let's go. The information provided on this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial or legal advice. Always consult with a qualified financial and or legal professionals before making any legal or financial decisions or investments. Man, what a great conversation with Chris. Always pleasurable to talk to him. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe to No Free Lunch on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts.